Reading through the Bible in 1 year, July 12th, Joshua 19, 1 through 39, Psalm 105, 19 through 45, Jeremiah 4, 19 through 5:13, and Mark 8, 1 through 26. Sorry, I'm real sneezy today. Okay. The second lot came out for Simeon, for the tribe of the people of Simeon, according to their clans, and their inheritance was in the midst of the inheritance of the people of Judah. And they had for their inheritance Beersheba, Sheba, Molada, Hazar Shual, Bela, Ezem, Elotad, Eltolad, there we go, Bethul, Hormah, Ziklag, Beth Markaboth, Hazar Susa, Beth Lebaoth, and Shahruhin, 13 cities with their villages. Ain, Rimmon, Ether, I suppose Ether, perhaps. Anyway, Ashan, 4 cities with their villages, together with all the villages around these cities as far as Baalath Beer. Ramah of the Negeb. This was the inheritance of the tribe of the people of Simeon according to their clans. The inheritance of the people of Simeon formed part of the territory of the people of Judah, because the portion of the people of Judah was too large for them. The people of Simeon obtained an inheritance in the midst of their inheritance. The third lot came out for the people of Zebulun, according to their clans, and the territory of their inheritance reached as far as Sarid. And then the boundary goes up westward and on to Morail and touches Dabasheth. Then the brook that is east of Jokneam. From Sarid, it goes in the other direction, eastward, toward the sunrise, to the boundary of Chisloth Tabor. From there it goes to Debarath, then up to Japhia. From there it passes along eastward toward the sunrise to Gath Hefer, to Athkazin, and going on to Rimmon, it bends toward Nea. Then on the north, the boundary turns to Hanathon, and it ends at the valley of Iftahel. And Katath and Nealah, Shimron, Idalah, and Bethlehem, 12 cities with their villages. This is the inheritance of the people of Zebulun, according to their clans. These cities with their villages. The fourth lot came out for Issachar, and the people of Issachar, according to their clans. Their territory included Jezreel, Chesulath, Shinuam, Hafaraim, Shion, Anaharath, Rabith, Kishion, Ebez, Remeth, Engadim, Enhada, Beth Pezez. The boundary also touches Tabor, Shahazuma, Beth Shemesh, and its boundary ends at the Jordan. 16 cities with their villages. This is the inheritance of the tribe of the people of Issachar, according to their clans, the cities with their villages. The fifth lot came out for the tribe of the people of Asher, according to their clans. Their territory included Helkath, Hali, Beten, Akshaf, Alamelech, Amad, Mishal. On the west, it touches Carmel and Shihor Libnath. Then it turns eastward and it goes to Beth Dagon. It touches Zebulun and the valley of Iftahel. There we go. Northward to Beth Emek and Nael. Then it continues in the north to Kabul, Ebron, Rahab, Hammon, Cana, as far as Sidon the Great. Then the boundary turns to Ramah, reaching to the fortified city of Tyre. Then the boundary turns to Hosa, and it ends at the sea. Malab, Akzib, Umah, Aphek, and Rehob, 22 cities with their villages. This is the inheritance of the tribe of the people of Asher, according to their clans. These cities with their villages. The sixth lot came out for the people of Naphtali. For the people of Naphtali, according to their clans. And their boundary ran from Haleph from the oak of Zaananim, and from Adami Nekeb, and Jabneel as far as Lakum, and it ended at the Jordan. Then the boundary turns westward to Asloth Tabor, and it goes from there to Hukok, touching Zebulun at the south and Asher on the west, and Judah on the east at the Jordan. The fortified cities are Ziddim, Zer, Hamath, Rakath, Chinnereth, Adama, Ramah, Hazor, Kadesh, Edrei, and Hazor, Yiron, Migdal-el, Horem, Bethaneth, Beth-Shemesh, 19 cities with their villages. This is the inheritance of the tribe of the people of Naphtali, according to their clans, their cities with their villages. Now, Psalm 105, 19 through 45. We actually read all the way through to 23, so we'll pick up from there. Then Israel came to Egypt. Jacob sojourned in the land of Ham. And remember, this is a kind of a snapshot of the people of Israel and what they've all gone through. It starts off with basically just a normal song of praise. It's a song where it begins with normal praise, and then it goes into the history. Picking up in verse 12 is where they pick it up. When we are few in number and of little count and sojourners in it, in the land, wandering from nation to nation, from one kingdom to another people, he allowed no one to oppress them. He rebuked kings on their account, saying, touch not my anointed ones, do my prophets no harm. And then it continues on, and this is where we're picking up in verse 23. So then came Israel to Egypt. Jacob sojourned in the land of Ham, which is Egypt. Or rather, it's Africa as a whole, but at that time it was seen as like the upper portion of Africa was the land of Ham. And the Lord made his people very fruitful and made them stronger than their foes. He turned their hearts to hate his people. So God turned the hearts of the Egyptians to hate his people. He's the one who orchestrated it. Why? To deal craftily with his servants. He sent Moses, his servant, and Aaron, whom he had chosen. They performed signs among them and miracles in the land of Ham. He sent darkness and made the land dark. They did not rebel against his words. He turned their waters into blood and caused their fish to die. Their land swarmed with frogs, even in the chambers of the kings. He spoke, and there came swarms of flies and gnats throughout their country. He gave them hail for rain and fiery lightning bolts throughout their land. He struck down their vines and fig trees and shattered the trees of the country. He spoke, and the locust came, young locusts without number, which devoured all the vegetation in their land and ate up the fruit of their ground. He struck down all the firstborn in their land, the firstfruits of their strength. Then he brought Israel out with silver and gold, and there was none among his tribes who stumbled. Egypt was glad when they departed, for dread of them had fallen upon it. And he spread a cloud for a covering, and fire to give light by night. They asked, and he brought forth quail, and he gave them bread from heaven in abundance. He opened the rock, and water gushed out. It flowed through the desert like a river, for he remembered his holy promise, and Abraham his servant. So he brought out his people with joy, his chosen ones with singing. And he gave them the lands of the nations, and they took possession of the fruit of the people's toil, that they might keep his statutes and observe his laws. No, this is why he did all of that. This is the end of that entire section that goes over all the glory of what God did for them. It wraps up with this line. Why? So that they might keep his statutes and observe his laws. Praise the Lord. Okay, now we are in Jeremiah 4:19 through 5:13. Now we see a lot of these things in this book. We see a lot of Jeremiah lamenting over the people. In fact, the book of Lamentations is one of Jeremiah's books, where he writes his lamentations over what has happened to the people of Israel and Jerusalem, the city of God, the place where his glory dwells. and what happens to that land because of the sin of the people. So this is another one of those sections. And you'll see those because typically there aren't quotes around it, or it'll begin a new section. So it says, my anguish. This is again Jeremiah speaking. I writhe in pain. Oh, the walls of my heart. My heart is beating wildly. I cannot keep silent, for I hear the sound of the trumpet, the alarm of war. Crash follows hard on crash. The whole land is laid waste. This is something he's witnessing in his mind's eye. He sees this coming and it terrifies him, and he feels so bad for all the people of Judah who are going to be utterly destroyed. Suddenly, my tents are laid waste, my curtains in a moment. How long must I see the standard and hear the sound of the trumpet? For my people are foolish. This is what God's saying. They know me not. They are stupid children. They have no understanding. They are wise in doing evil, but they know not how to do good. I looked on the earth, and behold, it was without form and void, and to the heavens, and they had no light. I looked on the mountains, and behold, they were quaking, and all the hills moved to and fro. I looked, and behold, there was no man, and all the birds of the air had fled. I looked, and behold, the fruitful land was now a desert, and all its cities were laid in ruins before the Lord, before his fierce anger. For thus says the Lord, the whole land shall be a desolation, and yet I will not make a full end. For this the earth shall mourn, and the heavens above will be dark. For I have spoken, I have purposed, I have not relented, nor will I turn back. At the noise of horseman and archer, every city takes to flight. They enter thickets, they climb among the rocks. All the cities are forsaken, and no man dwells in them. And you, O desolate one, what do you mean that you dress in scarlet, that you adorn yourself with ornaments of gold, that you enlarge your eyes with paint? In vain you beautify yourself. Your lovers despise you. They seek your life. For I heard a cry as of a woman in labor, anguish as of one giving birth to her first child, the cry of the daughter of Zion gasping for breath, stretching out her hands. Woe is me! I am fainting before murderers. Can you defend yourself? If there's murderers surrounding you, looking to kill you, and you're fainting, you're passing out, you can't defend yourself. Run to and fro through the streets of Jerusalem. Look and take note. Search her squares to see if you can find a man, one who does justice and seeks truth, that I may pardon her. Though they say, as the Lord lives, which is that's a kind of way for you to swear. You would say, well, as the Lord lives, I will do this thing, right? Saying that as long as God exists in heaven, as long as he continues to exist as a whole, then that is the proof that I will do the thing that I promised. But what do we see in verse 2? Though they say, as the Lord lives, yet they swear falsely. O Lord, do not your eyes look for truth? You have struck them down, but they felt no anguish. You have consumed them, but they refuse to take correction. They have made their faces harder than rock. They have refused to repent. Then I said, these are only the poor. They have no sense. For they do not know the way of the Lord, the justice of their God. I will go to the great, and I will speak to them, for they know the way of the Lord, the justice of their God. But they all alike had broken the yoke. They had burst the bonds. Therefore, a lion from the forest shall strike them down. A wolf from the desert shall devastate them. A leopard is watching their cities. Everyone who goes out of them shall be torn to pieces. Because their transgressions are many and their apostasies are great. How can I pardon you? Your children have forsaken you and have sworn by those who are no gods. When I fed them to the full, they committed adultery and trooped to the houses of whores. They were well-fed, lusty stallions, each neighing for his neighbor's wife. Shall I not punish them for these things, declares the Lord? And shall I not avenge myself on a nation such as this? Go up through her vine rows and destroy, but make not a full end. Strip away her branches, for they are not the Lord's. For the house of Israel and the house of Judah have been utterly treacherous to me, declares the Lord. They have spoken falsely to the Lord, and have said, He will do nothing. No disaster will come upon us, nor shall we see the sword or famine. The prophets will become wind. The word is not in them. Thus shall it be done to them. Now Mark 8, 1 through 26. Now we just got done with Jesus feeding the 5,000. Now we go through Jesus feeding the 4,000. In those days, when a great crowd had gathered and they had nothing to eat, he called his disciples to him and said to them, I have compassion on the crowd, because they have been with me now 3 days and have nothing to eat. And if I send them away hungry to their homes, they will faint on the way. And some of them have come from far away. And his disciple answered him, How can one feed these people with bread here in this desolate place? And he asked them, How many loaves do you have? And they said, 7. And he directed the crowd to sit down on the ground. And he took the 7 loaves, and having given thanks, he broke them and gave them to his disciples to set before the people, and to set them before the crowd. And they had a few small fish, and having blessed them, he said that these also should be set before them. And they ate and were satisfied. And they took up the broken pieces left over, 7 baskets full. And there were about 4,000 people. And he sent them away. And immediately he got into a boat with his disciples and went to the district of Dalmanutha. Now the Pharisees came, began to argue with him, seeking from him a sign from heaven to test him. The kind of thing where they wanted him to do like God had done in the days of Joshua, where the sun stopped in the sky for a day. Saying, okay, well, yeah, if you really say you're God, right? If you say that you have all of this power from God, then prove it to us by doing parlor tricks for us. That's what they wanted to see. And he sighed deeply in his spirit and said, Why does this generation seek a sign? Truly, I say to you, no sign will be given to this generation. And he left them and got in the boat again and went to the other side. Now, they had forgotten to bring bread, and they only had 1 loaf with them in the boat. And he cautioned them, saying, Watch out, beware the leaven, or basically leaven is the same thing as yeast, of the Pharisees and the leaven of Herod. And they began discussing with one another the fact that they had no bread. And Jesus, aware of this, said to them, Hold on, why are you discussing the fact that you have no bread? Do you not yet perceive or understand? Are your hearts hardened? Having eyes, do you not see? And ears, do you not hear? Now, remember, Jesus had told them that they have the ability within them to understand the parables and to understand how these things work. All they have to do is ask, right? But he's like, are you still not understanding? Do you not remember? When I broke the 5 loaves for the 5,000, how many baskets full of broken pieces did you take up? They said to him, 12. And the 7 for the 4,000, how many baskets full of broken pieces did you take up? They said to him, 7. And he said to them, Do you not yet understand? In another gospel, he goes on to explain that it goes on to say that I think it's in Matthew, actually, but regardless, what he says, or what it goes on to say, is that then they understood that he was talking about the teaching of the Pharisees in the leaven statement. And they came to Bethsaida, and some people brought to him a blind man and begged him to touch him. And he took the blind man by the hand and led him out of the village. Again, doing this so that a lot of people wouldn't see what's happening and then flock to him, because he entered a city and wasn't immediately thronged with people, right? And when he had spit on his eyes and laid his hands on him, He asked, "Do you see anything?" And he looked up and said, "I see people, but they look like trees, walking." Which is kind of a weird statement for a guy who's likely born blind. Then Jesus laid his hands on his eyes again, and he opened his eyes, and his sight was restored. And he saw everything clearly. And he sent him to his home, saying, "Do not even enter the village." Because again, everybody in that village will have known this guy as the blind guy. Everybody knew the blind guy. And yet here he is walking around without someone to lead him. Behold, the word of the Lord.